The Federal Attorney-General George Brandis has told Parliament he wasn't a party to an agreement with Western Australia to carve up the assets of Alan Bond's failed companies. But he says the former Treasurer Joe Hockey was, and Labor's accused him of throwing Mr Hockey under a bus.
The Attorney-General, Senator Brandis.
George Brandis is the latest in a legion of lawyers ensnared in the wreckage of the once high-flying Alan Bond empire.
This one's made for you. We're reinvesting that money in Australia because we think it's the greatest thing.
His Bell Group of companies with investments in mining, media and property went bust in the early 1990s. But banks, insurers, the tax office and other creditors are still scrapping over almost $2 billion in assets, steadily eroding with 20 years' worth of mounting legal bills. Last year, the West Australian government devised a way to wrap up the wind-up with a special law to bundle all the Bell assets and to place those owed money in a unique pecking order for payouts. The question now being asked is whether the Commonwealth dudded the West Australian government.
I was not involved in, and at the time they took place had no knowledge of, the discussions between Mr Hockey and Western Australian ministers.
As Treasurer, Joe Hockey did discuss WA's plans for its special law, and letters to his state counterpart record he had no problems with it. But had he also done a deal for the Commonwealth to run dead if, predictably, it all ended in a High Court challenge?
The exchange of letters do not, in my view, constitute or evidence such an agreement.
The one thing you can say about that statement is throws Joe Hockey under a bus, doesn't it? It throws Joe Hockey under a bus.
Labor's assault in what it calls a kickback scandal relies on Joe Hockey and then George Brandis turning a blind eye to WA's move on the Bell Group, thus jeopardising up to $300 million in taxes owed to the Commonwealth. But it hits a snag in the attorney's denials and in the fact the Solicitor General went to the High Court to argue against WA's laws.
And now
which still leaves Labor demanding a ministerial scalp.
He's accusing the Attorney General of some crime. His imagination is as boundless as his recklessness.
And an attorney sauntering on regardless. Greg Jennett, ABC News, Canberra.